I thought that my Peugeot was rust-free until I stuck my hand up that section up here, you see, up there, and pushed on the metal, and my hand went straight through, and that is very, very concerning. Yeah, just up there, as you can see. Yeah, I'm not going to push because the camera will end up covered in muck. But that is very, very worrying. It is a known fault on 306's. I thought I got away with it because I put my hand up there before and it all felt fine, but I never bothered really putting much pressure on it. And you can see some of the crispy, crunchy bits of rusty metal have fell through into the boot. I'm now very, very concerned that when I remove these panels here that I'm going to find horrendous rust, and of course there is the seatbelt mounting point is in there, and if that rusts away then it could be game over. Wish me luck, because this is not what I was expecting today as I was hoovering and cleaning the car out. This is a rather ridiculously fiddly job, so I've had to remove this weather seal, this rubber, and then unclip this roof panel from here, and I don't think I've managed to break anything, but that'll almost certainly change when I try and put it back on later. So there's my last screw, and then I'll be able to finally remove this panel and see what horror lies beneath. This is now the next day, and I've undone that screw, which is there. But predictably, because this is Crap Car Collective and all my cars are crap and difficult to work on and fiddly, etc., it actually turns out it's not the last screw. There's one that lives in there. So I'm just waiting on an extended hex key to arrive, and then I'll be able to get it off. As you can see, the whole panel now is almost free. And have a little look under here, and you can see the corrosion there. That's really not good news. My elongated hex keys have arrived. Just use that one, and now I can remove this panel. And this is very, very scary. How bad is it? Oh, it's not good, is it? It's not good. Oh, it's awful. Look at the hole there. Oh, that's not good at all. That's the seatbelt mounting point there for the reel. That bit up there looks fine, but it looks extremely crispy around there, doesn't it? So that is the seatbelt mounting point removed, and as you can see, that's just avoided the worst of the corrosion. But I'm going to poke that now with a screwdriver in a minute, and we're probably going to go through. So yeah, I'm really not looking forward to doing this bit. I'm going to remove this top angle mount here just to get the seatbelt out of the way completely. This isn't fun at all. Let's see then how much of this is actual metal and how much isn't. I'll leave all those connections in place for now. I think. Oh dear. Things are continuing to deteriorate on the 306. Been stabbing away for a good half an hour now, and there are more holes than a block of Edam cheese. You can see all the bits of crispy metal there that have come off, and all these chunks of what used to be Peugeot 306. All of those and those and those there, a bit more over here. Quite a lot on the wheel, and if you have a little look up there, you'll be able to see lots of daylight. We've got lots of speed holes up there, nicely illuminated, isn't it? But all jokes aside, is this the death knell for the 306? I really, really do hope not, because she's such a clean car otherwise. Unless, of course, there's horrendous rot hiding elsewhere, which going by this there may well be. But it's odd, because this little mounting point here, where all the electrical bits, the earthing points there, and all these little plugs that, you know, attach the rear lights and the radio to the speakers at the back that live in the parcel shelf. This bit here is actually really solid, not moving at all. And the seatbelt mounting point just there is nice and solid. Let me just show you. You know, that's okay. And there's the other one up there, not a mark on it. Oh, as you can see, it looks even worse from there, doesn't it? not good at all. So I'm going to speak to my sparkly stick weldy man tomorrow. I've got a day off on Tuesday, and I'll see if I can maybe drop it into him and he can quote me a repair. It's update time, and it's not an update that I want to share, because the more I poke, the holier it gets. This whole section here is rotted out, as I've discovered by poking it endlessly with a screwdriver. This hole here I think has gotten bigger. Not sure if you can see this section round here. That really is catastrophically corroded. All round there, completely rusty. The more I poke, the more holes I'm finding all the time. There we go. Yeah, I mean, look at all of this. There's like loads of bits of rust there that have just fell out. As you can tell by my tone of voice, I'm pretty deflated. I don't really know what the future holds for this now. I kind of want to stop poking because I know it makes the situation worse, but it's a necessary evil because we've got to expose all of the corrosion, of which obviously there is an awful lot. So now that I've discovered just how horrendously rusty and holy that rear section is, I'm going to start sanding it back. Now, I've only got a few rudimentary sanding tools, basically some sandpaper and an old sanding block. Running a bit low on supplies and all that, so yeah, let's try and at least get this section sanded back, protected against the elements. Here that is my rather rudimentary sanding implements. A bit of rather coarse sandpaper that's seen slightly better days, and this old sanding block that I just dug out of the garage there, so I will have to get supplies and a pair of oily old gardening gloves that I was using to clean up the oil leak on the front of the 306's engine. So let's get cracking anyway with this sandpaper and see how this goes. I've got to be very careful of the wiring there. Holes are becoming more apparent there, look. Yeah, we're going through. There we go, look, might as well go through. No point in keeping hold of that metal there. It's just rotted through, look. So I've managed to get this bit of wiring removed. I snipped this little cable tie kind of a thing here, and now that's gone. I've managed to unclip the plugs and the wiring, the earth point there, with those little handy clips that go into the pillar there. So they're at least out the way now. Forget about them. I probably should have done that ages ago, to be honest, but I've just been a little bit lazy. So now I've got much better access to the corrosion. And my finger keeps going through here. Not good. Not good at all. Oh. When will it stop? When will it stop? Right, let's carry on. I have now finished sanding back, well, for this evening anyway. And I think, considering all I had was some old bits of sandpaper and a rubbish old sanding block, I think I've done pretty well there and removed most of the rust. So you can see the metal is very damaged in most places there, which isn't great. Still need to do a little bit in the middle there. It's just hard to get to. You can get your fingers up underneath it, which you're supposed to, but just tricky to get in under there. So I went into the garage then looking for a bottle of Cure Rust that I bought when I had my first ever car, my little 2002 Ford Fiesta back in 2015, because that was just like this. It was worse. It was very rusty, but I couldn't find it, so I'm going to have to nip out into town tomorrow and get a bottle. But on a separate note, look, I'm really organised. What's that one there? That's the seatbelt mounting bolt. This one here is the seatbelt reel bolt. This one here is the earth bolt. So I've named all the bolts and all my little gizmos and bits of plastic trim and all that down there. So I'm really happy with that. And I've labelled my little plugs there as well, where they go. And I've taken pictures of it all because I know what will happen when I go to put it all together. If I didn't do that, it would be a disaster and a nightmare, and the car would end up on fire. I've just went and bought some of this Owatrol oil rust stop converter thingy. So I'm going to liberally apply it over my holy area, both inside, and I'll do under that wheel arch as well, and hopefully then that will at least chemically stop the rust, and that should at least stop it from spreading and making the situation any worse. That then is what it looks like once it's been sprayed. You get kind of like a uniform sort of a glossy look on it, which we have. I've also done then underneath that wheel arch, which was a pain in the backside because you had to do that one blind. So I'm going to have to recoat it in about 24 to 48 hours and go again. So with that section there behind me, now sanded back and protected from rust with my rust converter, it's now time for me to make a decision. I'd love to get it welded, but it's going to cost an awful lot of money. This car sent me back €1,600 back in February, and for the work, the welding work that needs doing at the back there, you're going to be looking at what, £400 or £500 minimum, probably. I did get welding done on the Ford Focus a couple of years back to get it through the Irish MOT, the NCT. And that was two little tiny pieces, no bigger than probably a 10p coin each side, a 20-cent coin over here. And that cost me about £250, I think it was, for that. So to get a piece, panel beaten into shape, and then welded onto that rear panel is, I don't know, what's that going to cost me? £400 or £500 minimum, probably. So I don't think it's financially viable, to be perfectly honest. So filling, it's most likely going to have to be. Now, I really don't want to fill it, and I've never used filler before, but that's the only way I'm going to be able to seal those holes up and keep it weatherproof. So, yeah, look, I don't want to, but I think I'm going to have to. It's filler time. So I'm in the middle here of mixing my concoction, which is hardener and filler, and I think I've got a pretty good thing full of it there on my little cardboard palette. Is that what they call it? Is that what artists call it? Not sure. Not very arty myself. This job certainly won't be. So there is my glob of isopon. Look at that. All you need when wobbing a French car. So let's actually get this going then. I'm going to give my holes a good solid filling. So the instructions said remove dust, debris, all that kind of stuff, give it a bit of a clean. I've only done bits of that, really. Haven't probably cleaned it as well as I could have done, but this is only a bodge job, so I'm not really all that concerned. Let's read the instructions here. I've just got to cover it then, I suppose, haven't you? So I'll just give it once or two. Oh, it actually starts to set already. Jeez, I didn't realise I did it that quick. Oh, fucking hell. Oh, look, it's completely set. It's like solid. Ah, that's a waste. Oh, right, that's dead. Look at that, look. Dead. Just a big solid mash of a waste. Right, that's a lesson learned. That's the first time I've ever used filler, so don't do what I've just done and leave it too long before you apply it. Right, let's start again then. Right, let's wob it on then. Okay, this is a first then, so let's just liberally apply it everywhere. And yeah, it's falling through. Falling through. Ah, that's a disaster. It's not great. It's not great, really, is it? It's all fell through that hole already. Try to get some of the smaller holes filled anyway. It's all fallen out. Am I doing this properly? I have no idea. This is just wing and a prayer stuff. That's what this is. As you've probably realised, although that's not looking too bad there, let's be honest. It's not looking dreadful in places. I've still got lots of filler left, so this isn't a disaster. Perhaps it wasn't mixed as well as the previous batch that ended up having to be thrown out. Yeah, I don't really know if that's all gone to plan or not, if I'm honest. Oh, that is a horrendously messy job. Right, I'm going to leave that for a bit and come back later. So that then is the state of play after the first round of wob. Not the neatest job, I've never filled anything before, so not looking fantastic, but it has at least set about half an hour ago relatively solidly, so be able to sand those bits off there, and it's basically just about getting it watertight so I can actually drive it again. It's not structural because, as I pointed out previously, that's the seatbelt mounting point there, and that is solid up there too, and this bit here is solid as well. If I yank it there, it's not moving at all. So that's for the electrical systems to be mounted. That's where that goes, you see just there, and everything, and then the seatbelt goes there and there, and I have overlapped with the filler here, but there is solid metal around it, so at least that is okay. I think what I'm actually going to do perhaps is go in from the other side of the wheel arch and see if I can wob it from that side instead. It's not the prettiest job that's ever been done, but it is at least functional. The filling process has now been completed, thankfully, and it is once again nice and solid. Yeah, it looks horrendous, I know it does, but I've attached some cloth down there with some sellotape, and I'm going to start sanding it all back to make it look a little bit smarter. But yeah, look, all very, very confident all the holes are filled anyway, and the point of that is just to stop water from getting in, because of course you've got some electrics knocking around in this general area. So let's get sanding back and see if we can smarten this mess up. I finished sanding. It doesn't look particularly good, does it? But that's all I'm going to do because, well, you're not going to see it, are you? It's going to be hidden behind this carpet and body trim, so it doesn't have to be picture perfect. Yeah, it is a bit rough and ready in places, but I'm confident that all the holes are at least filled, although I'm a little bit concerned about some that might live in behind this panel here, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, this is pretty much as far as I'm going to go with it. So I've got myself some emery paper here that I'm going to sand back the earthing point there and a little terminal here. Got to reconnect all of these shortly. Going to clip them back into the little holes there. One of them actually rusted away. They're one of the mounts there where you would clip it onto. So I bought myself some of these little Velcro, or what they called hook and loop sticky pads, because of course I think Velcro is a brand name, isn't it? So I'm going to stick one of those on here somewhere and see if that'll fix the issue. Although of course I won't be able to put one there because that's where the trim clips into, but yeah, we'll find a way around it. So yeah, let's start reconnecting these electrics and see if it all works. I mean, it should do, no reason why it shouldn't do, but you know when you start disconnecting stuff and then you reconnect it and you think, oh, is it going to work? I don't know. So wish me luck. The electrics are now reconnected, and as you can see, those cheap little hook thingies that I bought are absolutely flipping useless, so I might have to try and fix that in a second. I've now reconnected that. Anyway, the electrics are all reconnected, so let's see if they work then. This is the moment of truth, so let's try our indicators. Ignition is on, let's try them. Okay, that is our right hand indicators. Side light's working fine. Front's working fine. You can't really see it too well in this weather, in this bright weather, and that front lens is a bit foggy anyway. And yes, the rear right is working fine too. That's a relief. Let's try our lefts. Must fix the stay on that door actually. Okay, our front lefts are working fine. Our side lights are working fine. And our rear indicators are working fine. That is such a big relief. Good stuff. Now let's see if cleaning the earthing point has fixed the age-old issue with this car, which is the intermittent flashing rear light when the headlight's on. So let's try that. Let's pop the headlights on. Indicate right and pop the headlights on. Let's see. No, that has not fixed it at all. That's a bit of a shame. So, I mean, I believe that is the only earthing point for kind of the rear lights, and that thing's come off again. They're a waste of time. Don't buy cheap ones, buy proper ones. Don't know how I'm going to connect that. I might just leave it actually. We might get away with it just leaving it there. Anyway, yeah, I don't believe there was another earthing point on this side. Maybe there is underneath all of that. But do you think I'm going to go in there to find it? No, definitely not. Not after all the hassle of taking apart all of this. Better knock it all off there. So perhaps it is then just a dodgy rear light. I will deconstruct that rear light at some stage and give the connections all a good clean and a rub with emery paper. But for now, at least we know the electrics still work, thankfully. Let's knock that off. What a relief. Update time, and I'm moments away from torching this horrible car to the ground. No, I don't mean that, but I've encountered an issue where the seatbelt has retracted and locked. So this is the trim that goes up there. So I'm having to leave it out of the car to try and get some more purchase on this belt, but it's not working. It's doing my head in. So I think we're actually going to have to disconnect the belt down here. Remove the little dust cap. Going to have to disconnect it completely, remove the belt entirely from the car, retract it, bolt it back in, and hopefully that'll do the job. But little things like this, they really test your patience. This whole refitting process has been an unmitigated disaster, and I've broken the inertia reel seatbelt. Opened it up, prized off the clips, and all of that spool of metal over there came out that was all holding the tension in. So yeah, I'm going to have to get myself a new rear seatbelt. So nobody's going to be sitting on the rear left-hand side for the foreseeable future until I can find this unit. And yeah, I'm going to have to find the whole unit because it's all, if there's any way of actually attaching that without cutting the belt. So in order to remove that now, I'm going to have to cut the belt. This has been a thoroughly unpleasant job, and often reminds me why I hate doing DIY tasks on cars, because I invariably balls it up or something terrible goes wrong. I like cars, I like driving them, I like photographing them, I like videographing them and all that kind of stuff, but I hate with a passion fiddling around with them, because this kind of bloody rubbish happens. So there's the rear belt post-surgery, completely knackered. It'll be going straight in the bin. So nobody's going to be sitting in that corner anyway, to be honest. I rarely carry passengers anyway, to be perfectly truthful, but certainly won't be now. That is a right royal pain in the backside. But anyway, let's get this section fixed back up by putting this huge piece of trim back on, which is all scraped and damaged now. unfortunately, after trying to fix that seatbelt issue. We finally have this section reattached, and I did manage to lose a few bolts and screws on the way, so that's quite loose, but it doesn't really matter because it's going to be coming off soon anyway, so I can fit a replacement seatbelt, which lives of course down there. Yeah, as you can see there, no seatbelt action there whatsoever. As a sort of reminder of just how much of a horrible, disastrously job that all was. But at least I'll be able to get it back on the road and bring it for a test spin this evening. I better clear up some of the rubbish in the boot. And obviously fix that window, or the door seal there. I'll do that now in a moment. But at least I will be able to bring it for a drive at the very least. Oh, I hate messing with old cars. Honestly, I really do. Because it always turns out as a disaster. Now, I was a little bit frustrated yesterday with the 306 because the whole seatbelt issue really threw me and really annoyed me, and I just hate working on a car that, you know, it should be a nice and simple job, and then something like that goes wrong and all of a sudden you're going to be God knows how much money, time and effort down. So yeah, she did get to me yesterday, but you know, I've hopped in her and I brought her for a couple of drives yesterday and I'm back in her again today, and it does remind you why you bothered buying it, because she's such a lovely little car and she drives so well and she's in such good condition. Yeah, so yeah, she tugs at my heartstrings, honestly. Cracking little machine, and of course so rare, so you know, that scores already with its rarity value. So yeah, look, I am on the lookout then for a replacement rear quarter panel. That one that's just behind me there, you can kind of just about see it on the passenger side, and the rear seat belt. I'm on the lookout for them. I've texted a few people on Facebook Marketplace on Dundee and adverts.ie, people who are breaking 306s around Ireland, and I've had a couple of responses, so I'm hoping then that I'll be able to hopefully get that sorted. It's booked in for its NCT the middle of next month, July, and without that rear seat belt it's not going to pass. It's probably not going to pass anyway because there's a bit of a grinding noise coming from that front wheel, so yeah, I'm not really sure if it will pass anyway, to be perfectly honest, but it definitely won't with the rear seat belt missing. So if I can get that sorted before then, it will at least give it a flying chance, or a fighting chance even, of getting through the NCT. But yeah, I'm just glad to get that fiddly job done and get all that rust cured, treated, and get all the trim back on. It's all going to have to come back off, obviously, whenever I find a replacement rear seatbelt and rear trim. But for now, at least, I can get back in the car and enjoy it.